Okay, so we're back in the Rambam's Mishneh Torah. I apologize, I haven't been in this in a while. So we left off, we're in the second book, Sefer Ahavah, the book of love. We're in Hilchot Berachot, the laws of blessings, Parak Gimel, so chapter 3. It says there are 5 species of grain. And I have to remark that the Torah idea of species is not the same as the scientific classification. The scientific classification came way later. And whenever the Torah talks about species or subspecies, it's actually a classification that's important whenever you're dealing with the prohibition to not sow your field with mixed species. So there are easy ways to tell whether something is a species or subspecies, like a different species or a subspecies of one. But now's not the time to get into it, but I'll continue here. There are 5 species of grain: wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. So spelt is a subspecies of wheat, and oats and rye are a subspecies of barley. Okay, so wheat and spelt, so then barley, oats, and rye. Those are the, okay. These 5 species, when still in their sheaves, are what is generally referred to as produce. After they have been threshed and winnowed, they are referred to as grain. When any one of them is ground and its flour is kneaded and baked, it is referred to as bread. So that's pot, pei-tav, pot. So bread baked of any of these species is what is referred to simply as bread without qualification. So before eating bread, one must recite the blessing, "Blessed are you, Hashem our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth." Okay, before eating unprocessed cooked grain, one must recite the blessing, "Borei Peri Ha'adamah," who brings forth fruit, who creates the fruit of the ground. And after eating it, unprocessed cooked grain, after eating unprocessed cooked grain, you would say Borei Nefashot Rabot. And that's that short, the very short single paragraph or a couple line blessing after you eat some specific types of food. Okay. Before eating flour, one must recite Sha'kol. So Sha'kol Nieh Birvaro. Basically all that came into being by his word. Okay. Blessing. Okay, so you say Sha'kol blessing, and after eating it, you would say Borei Nefashot Rabot, which is the short one again. Okay, so flour ground from one of the 5 species, which was roasted and ground and then mixed with water or another liquid. If it is thick enough to be fit for eating, and he ate it, before eating it, one must recite the blessing Borei Minei Mizanot, who has created varieties of nourishing foods. Okay, well, if it is thin enough to be fit for drinking, before drinking, one must recite the Sha'kol blessing. And after drinking it, Borei Nefashot. Okay, flour of one of the 5 species that was cooked in a pot, whether alone or incorporated into other foods, such as pancakes and similar foods, or grain that is split or crushed and then cooked in a pot, such as wheat groats wheat groats or split roasted grain and the like, all which are referred to as pot products, or a cooked dish into which one cooked one of the 5 species during the cooking process, whether in the form of flour or bread, one recites Borei Minei Mizanot before eating it. So when does this apply? When the species is of principal importance to him and is not secondary. But if the ingredient made of one of the 5 species which was mixed was a secondary ingredient, one only recites the blessing on the main food and thereby exempts the secondary ingredient from requiring its own blessing. This is the general rule in blessings. In the case of a main food, along with the secondary one recites the blessing on the main food and it exempts the secondary one. This applies whether or not the secondary food is mixed in the main food. So this becomes very difficult with like something like pizza. There's different customs as to what you say for pizza, because some people go by, well, bread is just, like the grain in water. And then, for pizza, some people like the bread. That's the main food. That's like the base of it. But some people are all about the cheese and the toppings and stuff like that. So that's like a difficult thing. And it's, there's different customs of how people interpret that. But anyway, Okay, what is the case in which the secondary food is considered to be mixed in? When eating turnip or cabbage that were cooked and mixed with flour of one of the 5 species in order to thicken the dish, one does not recite the B'rei Minei Mizanot blessing, for the turnip is the principal food, and the flour is secondary to it. For anything mixed in only for the purpose of thickening or to add scent or color in the cooked dish is considered secondary. If, however, something was mixed in to impart flavor to the mixture, it is considered the principal ingredient. Therefore, when eating various types of honey, which are cooked with fine flour added to them as a binder, and which are then made into sweets, one does not recite B'rei Minei Mizanot, because the honey is the principal part of the food. So, like if you deal with like breaded fish or something like that. So the primary thing is the fish, the secondary is the breading. It might be different for other people, but okay, so what is an example where food is considered secondary even if it is not mixed in? If one wants to eat salted fish and eats bread with it so that the salt does not injure his throat and tongue, he recites the blessing over the salted fish and so exempts the bread, for the bread is secondary to it. This applies to all similar situations as well. So bread that is cut into small pieces, and cooked in a pot or kneaded into a soup. In the case of the soup, if the individual pieces have the volume of an olive or are recognizable as bread as their form has not changed, one recites the hamotzi blessing before eating it. But in the case of cooking in the pot, if the pieces are not equal to the volume of an olive, or if they lost the form of bread while being cooked, one recites the B'rei Minei Mizanot blessing before eating it. Okay, so this paragraph here could be applied to, I think, like matzo ball soup. And that might be the reason why some people like to make the matzo balls big. Anyway, a dough of a soft batter that is baked directly on the ground as the desert-dwelling Arabs bake, since it does not have the form of bread, the blessing recited before it is B'rei Minei Mizanot. So, but if one bases his meal on it, the hamotzi blessing is recited. So too, a dough kneaded with water and honey, oil or milk, or which has spices mixed into it, and he baked it, which is referred to as bread that comes in dumplings, that is formed into dumplings and kneaded with honey or the like, although it is bread, and one must observe the hafrashat challah, the blessing recited over it is B'rei Minei Mizanot. But if one uses it as the basis of his meal, hamotzi is recited. So it's the same thing, but if it's the main thing, it's hamotzi. Okay. So next is rice that is cooked or is formed into bread. The blessing recited before eating it is B'rei Minei Mizanot, and its after blessing is B'rei Nefashot Rabot, as long as it is not mixed with anything else and consists of rice alone. However, the blessing recited before eating millet bread or bread made of other legumes is Sha'akol, and its after blessing is B'rei Nefashot Rabot. On any food upon which hamotzi is recited before eating it, the standard 4 blessings of grace after meals, Birkat HaMazon, should be recited as its after blessing. So on any food upon which B'rei Minei Mizanot is recited before eating it, the after blessing is Barcha Achat Me'ein Shalosh. So the single blessing which summarizes the first 3 blessings of grace after meals, except for rice. Okay. When does this apply? When one ate an amount equal to the volume of an olive or more, but if one ate less than the volume of an olive, whether of bread or of any other foods, or one who drinks less than a revi'it, or an egg and a half, the volume of an egg and a half, whether of wine or of other liquids, before eating or drinking it, one recites the appropriate blessing for that food or drink, but no after blessing is recited. Okay, this is the Baracha Achat She'enei Shalosh. Blessed are you, Hashem our God, King of the universe, for the sustenance and for the nourishment and for the desirable good and broad land which you were pleased to grant as a heritage to our forefathers. Have mercy, Hashem our God, on your people Israel and on your city Jerusalem and on Zion, the dwelling place of your glory, and bring us up within it in gladness with its rebuilding, so that we may bless you for it in sanctity and purity. Blessed are you, Hashem, for the land and for the sustenance. On Shabbat and holidays, one includes in this blessing the sanctity of the day as it is mentioned in Grace After Meals. That is the end of chapter 3.